Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2012 Cadillac CTS-V Sport Wagon. Up front is a 6.2-liter supercharged V8, and down below is a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am incredibly excited to be making this video today because I love CTS-Vs with a passion. They're wonderful cars. But the Wagon, at least to enthusiasts, is kind of the holy grail. It was the rarest body style of the CTS-V. They could be had with manual transmissions, although this is the auto. The manuals are very sought after, and so I'm excited to finally share a CTS-V Wagon with you here on the channel. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute or so to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that supercharged V8 under the hood. Well, it makes 556 horsepower from the factory. Straight out of GM, they gave it 556 horsepower in a wagon, which is insane. And this car does hold one United States record as being the least fuel efficient wagon ever produced. I'm not kidding, that's a real statistic. But the 6.2, I've driven it in several other vehicles. It is amazing. It's bald eagle screaming anytime you want it, and it's always a pleasure. However, it's not a handful to drive at slow speeds, but we'll talk about that in a second. Like I said, paired to it is a 6-speed automatic, but like I said, you could option these back in the day with a manual transmission, which the manual CTS-V wagons go for, I mean, doubloons at this point. It's crazy prices you could get for a manual wagon. However, I'm not mad at the 6-speed. Two reasons for that. First of all, I think it's shifting pretty well. I'm not really bothered by it. I think it's doing a good job. And the second reason is because I actually prefer reviewing automatic cars, because then I don't have to worry about burning someone's clutch unintentionally, or there's a lot less worry that goes into it. Obviously, I prefer driving manual, but in terms of responsibility, I'm always happy to see an automatic in a high horsepower car. Last but not least, of course, the CTS-V is rear wheel drive in all of its body configurations. So how does it feel to drive the CTS-V Wagon? Well, it doesn't drive any different from the other CTS-Vs, of which I have driven. It packs an incredible punch, almost 600 horsepower, of course, but as I touched on earlier, driving it at slow speeds, I'm next to a Dollar General and a Luke's gas station. It's fine. It's normal. You do hear the grumble of the V8, of course, but you can drive it like a grandma and it won't punish you. A lot of performance cars are very one-sided. They only let you push the limits every single second of the drive. This CTS-V Wagon doesn't, and so from where I'm sitting, honestly, I couldn't tell the difference from a CTS to a CTS-V Wagon to a beefed-up Malibu. And that, I think, is actually a good thing, because then when I want to turn up the power and go for gold, I most certainly can. And that, I got a little quiet because I did not get any traction in doing that. Oh, keeps me on my toes, CTS-V. Keep me on my toes. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have 3 main gauge pods. Off to the left is my tachometer. In the center is my speedometer with a little digital readout down below. And off to the right, we have our coolant temperature, fuel, and boost pressure through the supercharger. On the steering wheel on the left, we do have our cruise control options, as well as traction control is actually found on the steering wheel. Kind of interesting placement there. And off to the right, we have our phone options, volume, and voice commands. The overall steering wheel is nice. It's very mid-2000s, and this being a 2012, it seems a little dated for that, but I like the V badge down at the bottom. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent and our information buttons for that gauge cluster screen, as well as our gauge dimmer switches. On the door, we have our 2 levels of memory seats, power mirrors, power windows, and power locks. Moving into the center, we do get this slim little infotainment screen. However, at the push of a button, it gets a lot bigger. In the early 2010s, they used to do this this from Cadillac, and I think it's a really, really cool party piece, if anything else. However, one issue with this is that this is where the backup camera is, and so if you have it in the down setting, when you do put it into reverse, it will auto pop the screen back up so you can see your backup camera, but it takes a couple seconds here, so if you're trying to get out of the driveway quick, you're gonna have to wait because the CTS-V is still loading. Down below that, we get an analog clock. Love the look of this, and our volume and tune knobs to the left and right. And then we have a whole slew of buttons. 2012 is about peak button in American cars. We loved our buttons, and this was before touchscreens really took over. So we have our favorite: seek, navigation, record, play, fast forward, reverse, rewind. And then down below, we also have our fan speed, where to send it, defrost, things like that. It's all kind of jumbled together in the center, and I think GM was one of the worst cases of this happening. One button I do want to point out, however, is the suspension button to the right of the navigation screen button, and this can adjust the suspension from Sport or Tour, which is going to be a more comfort one, and that is because of the MagnaRide suspension that GM gave it back in 2012. To the left and right, however, we do have dual zone temperature, and the driver and passenger get their own little readouts. Love this, and we have heated and ventilated seats in the CTS-V wagon, all of the seat amenities you might want. Then we do get a openable 12-volt outlet, and then moving on to the shifter, it does have the V up at the top. It is the automatic shifter, and I can plus minus off to the right if I would like, but I think the CTS-V is doing a fine enough job here today. We do have a power parking brake down below, and then we have cup holders, so we will do a big friggin' bottle test, but don't get your hopes up because every CTS-V of the past has failed, and so this is no different. Then we do have a center console, and we'll talk about the seats. The seats are a little bit more aggressive than what you would find in a normal CTS for good reason. This car is a lot more sporty than a regular CTS, so you gotta have seats to match that. They also have the V on them, which I really, really love, and I find them pretty comfortable. I have my heated seat on this morning, and it is nice and cozy. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2012 Cadillac CTS-V Sport Wagon, and a couple of things to note. First of all, I do have two climate vents back here, as well as a pop-out ashtray and cigarette lighter. I can also pull down the center console with two cup holders in there. It's not the most spacious, and honestly, the biggest issue is the headroom back here. I'm 5'11", and I'm coming very close to the ceiling. With the sunglasses on my head, I am hitting the ceiling. So it's not the comfiest, most spacious back seat I've ever sat in, but considering all of the things that this car does really, really well, I'm willing to give the back seats a pass. The nice center inserts from the front seats carry on back here too. I like that little attention to detail. And overall, do I fit back here super happily? No. But am I happy to be in a CTS-V Sport Wagon? Yes, I am. Let's hop into the very back and take a look at that wagon portion of the CTS-V. All right, the moment you've all been waiting for, myself included. It is a power tailgate here on the key fob, which, as you can see, is a picture of an SUV, which makes sense because this was really the only wagon that Cadillac made, at least of the era, that would have a key fob like this, so makes perfect sense. Here is the backspace of the CTS-V wagon. We can pull this up as well, and we have some more storage down there. Some nets, a 12-volt outlet over here, but other than that, this is the glory of the wagon. This is way more cargo space than the sedan or the coupe, of course, and you could fold down that second row and lay it flat, so you could put a twin mattress in here and haul it to your new apartment while also having almost 600 horsepower. That's incredible. Absolutely awesome. I mean, it's just so, so cool. I could go on about this for days. I do love the fact that it is a power tailgate, push of a button, down like that. You really love to see it. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and obviously this is the Sport Wagon, so let's talk about it. Of all the CTSs made in this generation, there were 244,000 CTSs made for this generation. Only 7,000 of them were wagons, which ends up being 3% of all CTSs were wagons, and that's just regular wagons. Of that, only 1,200 of them were CTS-Vs. And so that ends up being 0.5% of all CTSs made. Not even a full percent were CTS-V wagons. That is a very low production number. So seeing a CTS wagon at all is very, very rare, even as time goes on. Of course, there's going to be less and less on the road. But a CTS-V wagon is even rarer, and then you start getting into color options and transmission options. This has to be one of only a few hundred in this configuration at max. And so that is very, very special to see. And my big drawing point towards this video was driving something that you just don't see much of, but is so iconic with the GM brand. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the CTS-V wagon? Is it as good as everyone thinks it is? Is it the perfect daily driver? The answer to both of those questions is yes. If you can put up with the poor fuel economy, I think this is one of the best all-around vehicles. Because like I said, you can drive it slow and it doesn't burden you. However, you can drive it really fast and it feels free. It's a galloping horse. And so it's a pity that something so incredibly amazing had such a short lifespan and such a limited production run. Back in the late 2000s, when GM was toying with the idea of even making a CTS-V wagon, an interviewer asked Bob Lutz, who was the CEO of GM at the time, they asked him, "Will you make a CTS-V wagon?" And the CEO's response was, "If there's enough demand, we'll make it. And if we do make it, I'll be in front of you in line." That's how much of a passion project this was, because as practical as it is, building this isn't very practical. And in turn, they didn't really sell all that many because, yes, to us car enthusiasts, we all want V8 supercharged station wagons, but we still make up such a small percentage of the market, let alone someone that could even afford a Cadillac CTS-V wagon. I would love one, but I most certainly can't afford one, so I wouldn't have bought one back in the era. And so GM did what GM does best. They hit it out of the park, and then they bulldoze the park. It makes absolutely no sense to me. But GM will always follow where the money is, and although they have very passionate workers and the people at GM love cars as much, if not more, than the regular consumer, but when the money doesn't follow, neither do the cool ideas. And so while this was a very, very short-lived car, cut too short, cut down at its prime, I have to say I'm happy that they made it at all, because something like this doesn't come around all too often. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Jake for letting me take out his CTS-V wagon. This car is nothing short of a bucket list vehicle for me, and so I thank him for letting me check it off my bucket list, and I can finally say, yes, I've driven the CTS-V wagon. Yes, it is amazing. And yes, it is on my Christmas list. Jake has been absolutely wonderful to work with. We're filming a few of his videos here this morning, and I appreciate him very, very much. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.